Hello everyone, welcome, and today we're going to be discussing the difference between LAN and WAN for the AS level 9618 syllabus. So, what is LAN? So, LAN is basically consists of a network that has a small geographical area, and usually the infrastructure which is used is privately owned, just as the routers and the cables is usually privately owned. And a key advantages of LAN is allows for sharing of files and data between devices because since it's a small area, every device is connected to each other. I can send my data to another device on the LAN. Furthermore, you can allow the sharing of resources. So if you take cloud computing, it's almost as if you're hosting your own cloud computer inside the LAN. So your resources can be shared, such as your hardware and software, and it allows for central management of data. So there can be a central computer which controls everything, and that can keep backups, can hold security. So if you take example of a school server, that will store all of the school information, all the student information, like that. And if you see the image here, this is what's known as a LAN event in most games and esports, and it's when there's a physical connection, when they're physically present and the devices are physically connected to each other, and this is why it's known as a LAN event. And we will consider the differences between LAN and WAN later on. And WAN is a wide area network, and it covers a large geographical area, and the connection is often virtual. So you're not actually present there. You're not actually physically connected to every to every computer through cable, right? And it usually has lower data transfer rate, and it can have private or public ownership, so it's likely to be controlled by external organizations. So if you imagine, when you access the internet, are you paying for every dedicated line or PTSN? You're not, right? You are leasing it, or you're using another company which is known as the ISP. So that is why WAN is most of the time public ownership from external organizations. So now let us consider the difference between WAN and LAN. WAN, like we know, covers a large geographical area, and on the other hand, LAN covers a small geographical area. LAN connections between devices are usually physical, whereas the WAN connections are often virtual. So if you consider the entire world, right, we're not physically connected to every computer, it's a virtual connection. Furthermore, LAN has a higher data transfer rate since it uses a wired connection, whereas WAN has a lower data transfer rate. And most of the ownership of LAN is private, of such as the infrastructure, and the ownership of WAN can be private or public, but it's most likely to be public. And LAN is usually more secure than WAN because protection is easier to implement. So in a LAN, you can set up proper rules on every computer, firewall rules and anti-malware, so it's usually more secure. And on the other hand, WAN is compared to every computer in the world. It's very hard to ensure owner protection, hence it's much harder to implement security. Now, let us try out this activity, and I'll give you guys some time. Just pause the video and try doing the fill in the blanks. Awesome. So let us just go over the answers quickly. So like we know, a LAN covers a small geographical area and the infrastructure is privately owned and allows for sharing of files or data and enables communication between devices. And additionally, it allows the sharing of resources such as hardware or software, like we know in cloud computing. And a LAN also has central management through methods like backup and security. A WAN, on the other hand, covers a large geographical area with often virtual connections, and it has a low data transfer rate and can have either private or public ownership. And the differences between LAN is that WAN covers a large geographical area, whereas LAN covers a small geographical area. LAN connections are physical, whereas WAN connections are virtual. LAN has high data transfer rates, whereas WAN has low data transfer rates. And the ownership of LAN is usually private, and the ownership of WAN is mostly public, but can be private too. And LAN is usually more secure than WAN because protection is easier to implement. Okay, so that's just everything we need to know, and thank you, and best of luck for your revision.